Hello everyone. Hello everybody. Happy Wednesday. Good afternoon. Hello, and thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited. Whether you are joining me with your sketch pad or you're just here to hang out, you're definitely in for a treat because today we are going to be creating a very fun illustration. It's perfect for summer. But before we get started, I'd like to say hello to you guys. So hi Laquita, hey Lisa, hey Sarah. This is very new. So as some of you may know, that Michael's actually changed their live classes. So what we are doing right now is we're doing live, but this broadcast is going to be recorded and it will also be posted on Michael's website, and then we might post this on Faber-Castell's YouTube as well. But so we're doing this as live, but it's also being recorded to be part of the on-demand Michael's growing library of tutorials and videos. So hello everybody. Oh my goodness, you guys took a shower, put some makeup on. I have to get ready for all of you. Oh my goodness. So Sarah said you drew your sea creatures already? Are you not waiting for us? Why, Sarah? Why you do that for? You didn't even wait. Oh my goodness. All right. So I know that everyone is all settled, so we should probably get started now. All right. So let's talk a little bit about all of the supplies that I will be using today. So, of course, since we're working with some alcohol markers, I'll be working with the Goldfaber Sketch Markers. These are alcohol markers, very, very vibrant. It's perfect for those like out of this world coloring. Adult coloring now is like, it's everywhere. It's all over social media. Again, I do own a couple of different coloring books, and of course I do have my own coloring book as well. So we'll be working with that. So the alcohol markers will be perfect for coloring. But if you do not have any alcohol markers, whatever coloring medium you have right there with you is a perfect one to use. I always say that. But I will personally be using Goldfaber Sketch Markers. You know what? I was trying to decide on a color palette, and I couldn't decide on a color palette. So this is what I have today. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go with the orange, red, and teal color. This is a really good palette right here. And then, of course, my favorite palette, usually lilac, a deeper violet, magenta, and a blue. That looks great all the time. But we'll definitely need some light blue colors, because we want to draw a little bit of like bubbles to create that under the sea look, right? And then because we're working with some alcohol markers, we need some Bristol paper pad. This is the Bristol paper pad. This is the artist level number 2 from Artist's Loft. It is a Bristol smooth. So there's like a Bristol vellum. The vellum is slightly textured. There's a little bit of grit to that, but very, very slightly. The Bristol smooth, of course, hence the word, it is much smoother. So I feel like your brush pens will glide much better, and you don't feel like you're fraying the felt tips of the brush pens, All right, and because we are going to be doing some sketching, pencil, eraser, two of my favorite things. This one is just a regular HB pencil. I always get this question. It's like, what kind of pencil is that? This is actually the Jumbo series of Faber-Castell. This is the 9000 Jumbo. But I love this one because it's slightly, slightly thicker than your regular pencil. Because I get really tired. My hands get cramped, from drawing every day. It's like, okay, this is really helpful. Just have a slight width to it. And then I love mechanical pencil also. This one is from Faber-Castell as well. This is their Polymatic one. And same, it has a little bit of thickness because, if you use a regular pencil just like this one, it's much thinner. Sometimes you're cramped. That's why, as much as I love colored pencils, I can only use it for very long just because it's very thin, and sometimes I get like cramping because I'm getting older. So the Polymatic, and then the kneaded eraser. And I also love using the eraser from the mechanical pencil because, especially with those little tiny things, it's just much easier to have a smaller eraser like that. And then for a smooth, beautiful line work, I'll be working with my Faber-Castell Pit Artist pen in the Fudenosuke hard nib. So this one would be the much thinner. So there's two Fudenosuke medium, and then Fudenosuke hard. So FM and FH. And today I'll be working with the FH. All right. Okay. The Kansen marker pad. Yes. I you know what? I was looking for one for mine. I have it, but I just can't. I don't know where it's at. So, hey, who's joining us? Patri? Is that Patri? Is that for Patricia? Hey, girl. Thanks for joining in. Okay, so we're going to be doing this project from sketch to finish. And, but Sarah already started her sketch. Sarah, why? Okay, I'm going to zoom in just a slight bit so we can see everything. And then I want to make sure that I am, okay, so everything is in focus. All right, so I'm going to grab that. You know, when it comes to sketching, what helps most of the time for me is to really do a little bit of warm-ups. I know you might not want to hear this, but yes, it takes a little bit of warm-up too. And what helps is that having just a little bit of inexpensive sketchbook like this one. This one is from Creatology, from Michael's. This is from their kids section. And you know, when you're doing your warm-ups simply means like we're doing different type of different lines and shapes, like straight lines, wiggly lines, you know, jagged lines, scallops, circles, and all that stuff. But it's really important to do a little bit of warm up because what you're doing is you're actually building this hand and mind coordination. So because I haven't done any type of warm-ups today, believe it or not, I would do a little bit of warm-ups just to get me started. And also doing these just a little bit of, what do you call this, you know, the basic shapes like that really does help because of all the kawaii creatures that we're drawing today. I promise you it's going to be really super easy because it's just a bunch of simple shapes that we're turning into colorful, kawaii, adorable creatures. All right, so I'm going to open up my sketchbook just so I have a little bit of reference because, you know, sometimes we forget and it's okay. All right. Hi, how do I say it? Patri? Hey, Patri. Am I saying it correctly? Hello. So a friend is joining us from Costa Rica. Costa Rica. Is that how you say Costa Rica? That's so fun. Would love to visit you there one day, someday, hopefully. All right. Okay. So before we get started with this beautiful illustration, first part is sketching. I know, but before even sketching, let's do the before sketching would be the warm-ups. So let's do a little bit of warm-ups. Grab a copy paper, you know, just a simple paper in there that's inexpensive, that you're not going to feel bad, just kind of like slightly wasting, but it's not really wasting. I don't want to call it wasting, but it's kind of wasting when you know you're just going to do a little bit of circles and a little bit of lines. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little bit of straight lines just to get my hands kind of like relax and calm, especially when we're doing all of these live classes. I feel like it's new again. Can you imagine that? I feel like I have been doing this forever, but every single time I would do something like this, I feel like, okay, I am like I'm so nervous, but you know what? Just give me a few moments. I'm going to find my groove in here. So all I'm doing is just really doing some marks, and I'm going to go zoom in just a little bit more so you can see this, and then I'm going to go make sure that, there you go. Can you see that? Okay. So I'm doing lines. You can do like jagged lines. Try some wiggly lines. Wiggly lines would be important because we're going to create lots of tentacles today. Lisa, I know you're here, so be kind, okay? Be nice. Your mind. So tentacles. We'll be drawing tentacles today. Okay, and then I'm doing like half circles. Remember, when we're doing some sort of kawaii, we don't really want any sharp points. That's the only thing that we want to avoid, is that have sharp points. So even I'm drawing kind of like a mountain. Notice how I'm doing the top a little bit curved, you know, it's slightly curved. I'm not doing the mountain like this, like a triangle. So we want to avoid any sharp things like this, because sharp things remind us of pointy subjects, you know, and pointy subjects is not very cute. So we want to go to the cuddly side, to that very squishy side of things. So we're going to draw, even our mountains would have a slight curve on top like this, just like that. And I feel like I'm already getting there, but I'm just going to keep going. So we're going to do like this. Some wavy lines. Straight lines, diagonal, from the top to the bottom, from bottom to top, right to left, left to right. We're just doing a little bit of that. Okay. I feel like we're there. Okay, all right. So let's get to sketching. Now, how I would want to position my characters here would be in the landscape form. So I'm just going to go move around my marker pad like this, just so I will have more width than the length, right? So I'm going to go back to just like this. Okay, just a little bit of info. When we're doing any type of sketching, it's a little bit harder to see it. So just be patient with me, because sometimes it's really hard, especially I'm working with an HB pencil. Maybe I should have used a deeper graphite pencil, but it's really hard to erase, and I don't want to do that. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw on the back of this one, just so you can see what we're going to do. So we're going to draw an octopus, a kawaii octopus, a jellyfish, a squid, a starfish, and some fish. All right, so we're going to create all of that, this beautiful under the sea world. Okay, so to create our kawaii octopus, imagine drawing like a balloon. Okay, so when we draw a balloon, the line at the bottom would be slightly narrow. Actually, if it's a balloon, it's more narrow, but we're drawing an octopus, so don't make it too narrow at the bottom and then slightly wider on top. What I mean by that is like this. This is the shape we want to create in the beginning. So almost like a circle, but the bottom would be open, and you're going to be throwing slightly narrow in there. Right? So that's the first shape. Our jellyfish is very similar, but this is going to be more like a really perfect half circle, or the top of the circle. So it's more like this. Just like that. And then for our fish, it's almost like drawing eyes, right? So the almond shape. So we're going to draw two slightly wider, kind of like what we did with the jellyfish, but this one, it's wider and stretched. But don't close both points. We're going to draw another line, this very similar, same line, but the opposite, and we're doing it at the bottom, but we're going to keep both ends open like that. Okay? Because we're going to add the smacker, the pointy lips like that, and then we're going to add tail to it later on. And then for our squid, it's going to be almost like this, but if I'm going to draw it here, so it's almost like an eye shape, but only the top would be like this. So I'm just going to draw it just so you can see. Like that. So you can close it in, but remember, don't make any points, any sharp points in there. But this one is going to be wide open like this. Okay, so this is going to be our squid later on. All right, okay, so I'm going to proceed to my sketch pad. I'm going to start drawing. I'm going to start with the octopus first, and I'm going to place her, maybe it's a baby octopus. So I'm going to make it where my octopus is slightly tilting, but you know the shape now. That's what we did earlier. And so kind of like eyeball things, you don't want to make it too big. Definitely I made that big over there in my initial sketch so you can see, but I'm going to go play around and start drawing it. And I'm going to make it where it's almost like tilting to the left. All right? Just like that. And then we need 8 tentacles. So the way I'm going to do the tentacles is also very, very chubby. So this is what I'm going to do it. 1, almost like this. And I want to make sure that I make 8. So I'm going to draw both sides, the left and the right. And then we're going to fill in the middle part. And we want to make sure we'll be able to fit in 8. So we started with kind of like 2 arms on the side like this. And that's so cute. And then we'll add 6 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So did you see how I did that? Kind of like added on this side and then added on this side, just so I can have equal parts. And then if you feel like some tentacles are, man, it's gonna be tough. Some tentacles will be smaller than the others. Just kind of like sketch on top of it and then make some adjustments. And this is where sketching really, really does help so much, you know, instead of kind of like going in right away with your markers, because we make mistakes because we're only human. Because kind of like I want to make adjustment already with the side over here, so I can just kind of go in and then fix it just like that. And then you decide, do you want your face a little bit to the top? I think I want it like not dab smack in the middle, but slightly close to the bottom. But I'm just going to put in 2 kawaii eyes, so 2 tiny ovals in there, and then just a little bit of mouth. I don't want it to have like that big, so I'm just going to make it like small circle, wide, that's open, slightly open like that. Ooh. I feel like I need adjustment to this one, but we'll do that later on. Okay, and then let's make my fish on top, because I want to make this one slightly bigger. Now we'll start with the basic shape, again, kind of like drawing some eyes, because we can always adjust it, but we want to start with the basic shape all the time. Because from here, we can already tell, you know, okay, I want to make the belly slightly bigger. It goes more narrow on the side. But always start with the basic shape, because what it does is that if we start with the basic shape, it takes out that overwhelming feeling of perfection right away, of having to do something perfect right away, right? So start with that, and I'll make adjustment. We can make that smacker lips, fishy lips. Like that. And then we're going to make a line like this, curved line. And then we'll start with just a basic fin. So almost the same shape as the fish. That's how the fin is going to be. Just like that. See? Can you see how just using the basic shapes, we're creating all of these characters, all right? And then we start, and then we add some, what do you call this part of that? Fins of the fish. So almost like stretched, scalloped is what I'm doing. And then it goes from high to short, and I'll do the same at the bottom part. And then I'll draw almost like a heart shape right here. Just like that. And then we can start adding some eyes. And then we can add later on more textures in there. Okay, so we'll move on to the next character. Maybe we can draw a starfish in here, right in the middle, so we can have like a small one. Okay, so this is the key when it comes to drawing stars. If you want to draw a star just a regular way, how you would normally draw it, then we can contour and add those, we can add in the curved lines next. So if you want to start with just a regular star like this, and that will be your guide, just kind of like this. We can add the curve. We can add the curve on the side, but have that very basic star shape as your guide, and then you can go in and start adding the shape of your starfish, right? Because what you next is you got to go erase the middle part, that basic star shape, and then you're left with this really cute, more chubby star. Okay, so that's my secret and key. Well, because I've been practicing, so I kind of just know how to, you know, create the star without doing that guide first. But you know, if you're having some difficulties just kind of like creating this star shape, then that is the secret. I shared with you the key. There we go. Kind of like that. We'll start adding in the bottom. We can make adjustments later on. I just want to have all that basic in there. Okay. And sometimes, or most of the time with Kawaii, you don't have to make the lines over complicated, because I think that's the thing with the Kawaii art, is that it's very simple, very basic shapes, very basic lines, everything basic, because all the cuteness is there already. Okay, so we can keep that one in there. You can make another one that's smaller if you would like, you know, just kind of like fillers later on. But if you want to add that later, let's do that. Okay, now I'm going to add my lovely squid. Remember the shape. It's almost like an alien head, but really narrow on top. Coneheads. Is that a movie, Coneheads? Like this. Do this. Like that. Remember, we're going to leave it open right there. And then we're going to add, remember how we did the tentacles for octopus? This one we're just going to make small ones. So we're just making it a kawaii line. Just like that. Yeah, cone heads. I thought so. I wasn't sure. Okay, you're going to go. Perfect. Is it? I cannot tell if it's in focus. Are we in focus? There you go. That's in focus. Okay. So now that I have that, now we can add, like, remember we're practicing our wavy lines earlier. So I'm just going to add in wavy lines like this. One first. And how I did that is almost like in between these tiny shapes. That is where I'm adding my tentacles. So, and then I'm making it where it's moving around. So there's movement. So we're adding some movement to our character right now. Like that. And then you can add some width to it if you would like. Kind of like just adding the same. I'm just following the original shape or line that I drew, and then I'm just adding another beside it, just so we can add some width, and then we can color this part later on. And it gets really narrow and pointy in the very end. And I don't know if I want to keep it pointy like this, but actually it looks really good. So like, but you know, I always say don't make it pointy in Kawaii, but maybe we'll make it pointy, slightly pointy. And then we're going to add those, I have no idea what you call that top part. Okay, we'll just make it hat. We don't know what it's called. What do you call it? I have to ask Google here. Okay, we'll just make it like this. And I'm going to make it where my face is right here, not slightly close to the middle. And this time I'm going to make my mouth like this, wide open, like that. All right. And then I'll add my jellyfish over here to the side. Now remember that you can always move your paper pads. I think this is something that we always forget. You know, we have a hard time just kind of like putting our hands on top. Remember that this is not stationary. You can tilt it and move it around your paper like this. So, you know, you will notice me do that a lot because it really, really does help. Okay, so I'm going to make where, because my octopus is slightly tilted to the left, now I'm going to make it where my jellyfish would be, you know, slightly tilting to the right. So remember, it's just a half circle, just kind of like this. That's that basic shape. And then we're going to add mini scallops again. That, and then to the side. Because later when we color, that's when we can add more textures and more cuteness to it. Right now we're just doing the basic work, which is the sketching. And then so if I tilt it right back, now I can see if it's not crooked. I think it's okay. Then I'm going to make it where, oh no, you don't want to touch the tentacles of the jellyfish, squid, but okay, we'll make it where it's almost like going a little bit away from the squid. Like that. It's okay. I don't think it's going to hurt the squid. If it does, it's cartoons. That's going to be rated R. I mean, no, rated G. So we're going to make it. Don't hurt me. No, I won't. I promise. That's what it's saying. I'm going to make it where the other part, the first thing that I created, I'm going to make it where it's going to go a little bit here instead of going down. So my eraser to the rescue. And this is the fun part, is the sketching, it's the planning, you know, the pre-planning everything. Because this is when your mind, your imagination will just take you everywhere, as long as you allow it to just play and, you know, not overcomplicate things. Just have fun. Okay. Then I'll add some extra width, basically just following the original lines that I created. Oh, they're kissy, they're tentacles. It's like, hi. That's probably how they communicate. Under the sea. We don't know that, and I'm just adding some broken lines there just to remind me that I want to add that later on when I'm doing my line work. Okay, and then I feel like I'm missing something here on top, so I want to add like maybe a fish. That's right, Alina, it is behind it. It's over there. It's not going to touch, but this one is like, is it going to touch? No, it's not touching. I'm going to go erase that line. So it looks like it's underneath the other tentacles. There. That's good. Okay, I'm missing something here, so I want to add another fishy in there. So we're going to make another one. Should we make it where it's facing to the right maybe? Because this one's facing to the left. Yeah, let's do that. Why not? Okay, I don't want to make this too big, so I'm going to be taking it easy. Okay, remember when I said that this is the basic shape, because this is what I want to teach you. When you draw that basic shape, which is kind of like drawing an eyes, you know, the beginning of drawing an eyes, you can adjust from here. You could make it where this one would be much wider. So now that I've drawn the basic shape, I can change it where I would make this one slightly wider. Well, now I'll erase this part. So right there. Right, and it's still going to go close in anyways, but it's not a perfect eye shape anymore. And then I'm going to make the kissy face, like that. You can adjust it even more and maybe bring this down. Make this slightly bigger again. As long as you have that basic shape to follow, honestly, everything is going to be easier now, because that basic shape is just what's going to guide you. Okay. So you're going to have like very short fin, because you don't want to touch that squid. You guys are good friends. All right, instead of a more controlled line like how I did with this other fin, this one I'm going to make it where it's almost like a tentacle where it's moving. There's some movement. So I'm going to just make like curved lines like that. See how I did that? Just kind of like up and then it goes down again, but the line is more smooth like this. So there's a slow movement in there. And then we're going to draw a curved line over here for that fish. And then we're going to make it where this one is bigger, like that. And this one would be kind of like calm. So eyes are like closed. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. I'm missing like something in here. Look at your drawing now. See where there's like gaps and spaces where you can fill in, you know. You can always fill it in later on with like bubbles, and that's why I said we need like light blue. And that's, you know, you can draw stars in there. I mean, come on, it's a drawing. You know, I'm just going to draw bubbles now. So I'm going to draw circles and play around with the shape. I like to make it draw it in 3. So I'm gonna go, and these are great fillers, guys, to almost make it look like where everything was like where it's supposed to be. And I do this a lot when it comes to my lettering. It's like I love adding those star fillers. It looks like I actually planned where the letters are gonna go, but in complete honesty, it's the fillers that made it like that. It's almost like I was too perfect. Placed everything just perfectly in my head, which seldom, rarely ever happens. Okay, just adding more circles, just a little bit here and there. Maybe I'll add another one here. And then we can add some stars later on. But we're good with this. And maybe just add some random circles here and there, just so we can complete it. And we can do this later with the markers as well when we're ready to color, but you know what? Why not do it now so I know where the placement is? Okay, and this is where my kneaded eraser comes in, because I'm just taking this and I'm just gonna roll in like that. Like this. And then we're gonna roll it on top of the artwork, because we're gonna start adding our line work. So I'm going to use my Pitt artist pens. I'm going to go fold it again so it's not so long. I'm going to fold it. Now my problem with kneaded eraser sometimes is that I get like I don't know, like marks of the graphite. So probably my daughter says you have to clean it often, which I probably don't. So that's why. So we're just gonna roll it like that. Without erasing the whole sketch, you know, because we just need that perfectly light sketch. And then we can start adding in our line art. Like what I said, this one is the Fudenosuke hard. Okay, and this one has a very thin, very fine tip. And also it's not too flexible. The Fudenosuke medium would be a bit more flexible than this one. But both are really my favorite when it comes to doing any type of line art. It used to be the brush tip, But sometimes it's a little too flexible for me, and I really have heavy hands, so I end up with, you know, much thicker strokes than I would like. So this one is really perfect because there's flexibility. You can, you know, press on it, give it a little bit of that pressure, and you'll get, you know, slightly thicker strokes. So it's perfect. Okay, so I'm going to work this from top to bottom just so I don't end up with a lot of smudges. Or I can do from left to right as well because I'm a righty. But if you're a lefty, then you definitely want to work from your right to the left, right? Is that correct? That's a lot of right. Okay, so I can work on this one. You can go as slow as you would like. Take your time. Okay. And I also love this one because it doesn't put out as much ink as, you know, the brush pen. So it doesn't require a long drying time. Okay. Here's a tip that I would like to share. If you feel like you cannot finish one long stroke at a time, what I like to do really is kind of like add like broken lines, and it almost looked like it was intentional, but to be honest with you, it's only because I couldn't do the one long stroke at a time, and then until it became just something that I would normally do, and it almost became like my style. But at first it was developed because I couldn't finish doing my line work with just one long stroke. So I'm like little dashes, but it's like, whoa, actually it looks really good. All right. Oh, before I forget, if you want to change the fin, you know, from the basic, if you want to add a little bit more scallop looking, go ahead and do that. Feel free to do that. So what I mean by that is you can do it where it's like this, and it's going to go like that. So instead of just kind of like one clean line, you can make it where it will match your fin as well. So from bottom, I'm going to go to the top, just like that. Just like that. Yeah, definitely. No, it's something that I feel like the more you do it, the more you really understand that why was I giving myself a hard time trying to do that one long stroke? And what happens is that most of the time when I'm careful, the more, I promise you, it's like every single time I try to be careful, every single time, then it's like end up being wonky and jaggedy, you know, and I'm trying to be careful, but it's like shaky. I'm like, okay, that's it. I'm done with that. So I'm just doing like little tiny broken lines like this, and I'm like, it works. I love it. It actually works. Okay. Not sure. Here we go. That's more in focus. So we're going to do our heart shape. Yeah, little tiny lines, no problem. But long ones, whew, it's tough. All right, I'm gonna make my eyes where it's almost like my wing liner today. So I'm gonna make it where it's tapered to the end, and I'm gonna go make it wing like that, because this little fishy is sassy. Like this. All right, leave it alone. And my fishy lips. That's so cute. Okay, next. You're welcome, my dear. Okay, so we're gonna do my little octopus. Definitely cannot do that in one stroke like this. Nope, no matter even if I try. Okay, so now I'm thinking to myself, how can I do this? Do I do the first half first? you know, and then just slowly do the bottom. Sometimes I would do that. So I'm thinking to myself now, right now, what am I going to do? You can just go kind of like move your paper as you know, as you kind of like move along, sketch a little bit, and then tilt it again, and then do the other half. You can always do that, right? So just find the best way for you, whichever it is that you feel like, find that best work that would, you ruined it already. Okay, that best work for you. So look at me, I'm gonna go just tilt it, and then I'm adding those broken lines. If only I have a bigger desk. There. I feel like that's okay. That turned out just fine. Okay. Now I did so many strokes in here, I really cannot remember which one is the good one, but okay. I would usually clean that up, but I guess I missed that part right there. Okay. We're doing okay. Okay. Now I don't normally worry about the colors bleeding through when I do my line work, but I try to make it where it's not so thick, because that usually depends on the type of paper that you're using, of how fast your pigment liner or your line marker would dry. I mean, I don't have any issues with the alcohol marker. I only have problem with the yellow color. Sometimes with yellow, I think it's something with the pigment that is taking forever to dry, and it normally bleeds through. Look at this. I didn't follow my sketch. My sketch is like leaning a little bit more there in the middle, but you know what? It happens. And we're going to move on from that because it's okay. All right. So this, I'm going to do my left side first. All right. And then I'll do that curve on top. And slowly do my line. All right, that's okay. That's the thing, when I'm doing like line art like this, I feel like it's like brush lettering all over again, because I'm like, I get so lost. I get like in a trance when I'm doing line art. I feel like I'm very mindful. I try to be careful, and then just really entranced with that stroke or the movement of the marker. And I get that when I'm working with, I think, watercolors. It gives me that feeling also. Okay, question for you. What type of shape or line do you like doing the most? Do you like straight lines? Do you like doing ovals, circles? I love scallops and I love wavy lines. There's something about wavy lines. Okay, I'm gonna do this one on top first. I love the wavy because it's almost like I'm in a trance when I'm like following it like that. I don't know, it just gives me that. I know, right? No, you know what's the key about the kawaii is always just make it, you feel like, this is the thing, you want to make it as small as you can. That's it. You want to make it as small as you can, because when they have like really tiny faces, that's when I feel like they're much more cuter. Like that. So just make it as tiny as possible. Okay, let's make our fish. I talk so much. Let's add fishing. Like this, and I'm going to move this one. Definitely did not do that in one stroke. It's okay. Like that. So cute. Ding, ding. Wavy curve line. Okay. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe wavy line, I think. I'm going to stick with wavy. I love curves too. Like those mini scallops, whenever we do that, mini scallops, I feel like they're so cute. There. And I'm going to do the same thing to this eye, but not make it wing. No, but just slightly thicker in the middle part. This middle center area right there. There you go. And I'm not going to try and add any more lines in here because we can do that with our alcohol markers. If I can adjust anything, I feel like the only thing I'm going to adjust here would be my jellyfish. I feel like I will make it slightly smaller. So that it's not touching with my squid too much. Look at my jellyfish. I ruined. See, my sketch was like perfect, and every time I would do my line work, it's like that was it. It's gone. I would always ruin it. Okay. Just following the line. I think I'm going to complete this tentacle right there. I feel like the tentacles of my jellyfish keeps getting longer. Why? Okay, this one's going to be a little shorter. Okay, the most stressful part is done. Whew. Okay, we're going to add our small, 2 tiny ovals for my eyes. And 1 tiny mouth. And then remember I added the broken lines in here, so I'm going to add that. It just builds, look at this. You're adding texture to it, but at the same time you're also adding lots of cuteness. I don't know how broken lines like that can be so cute, but you know what? It is. All right, and then our bubbles, later on we can just use a blue marker. Now here's the question. Colors. What kind of colors am I going to use for today? I feel like, do I want to go, because when we have the orange and the blue, we have warm and cool tones together, which means it's balanced, right? So we have that cool, we have the orange. Maybe I'll bring in a little bit of like corally color, just so I have a little bit of pink. This is beige red. I think the beige red would be good. Like this corally. What's this one? Now, if you want to choose, you know, your own color palette, just kind of like swatch it in a piece of paper so you know exactly what the colors would look like. Because most of the time, I personally pick colors and I'm like, ooh, that did not look exactly the way I was expecting them. So this one is very definitely super cool blue than the others. So I don't know if I want that. Maybe this is good for the bubbles. This is water blue. It makes sense. Right? Then we have the dark cobalt green. Ooh, that's really dark. But it's nice to add for contrast. We can definitely use it with the vintage turquoise, that dark cobalt green. I think that's a good contrast. Now these are going to look good the beige red, and the other one is dull beige red. I don't know why you call it dull when it's like pinker than. You think they made a mistake? But we can add pink to it, the magenta, middle purple. Look at that. So cute. I love this color palette. I'm good with that. Cool. Okay. So that's the colors we're going to use today. I'm like, we have, you know, the cadmium orange, we have middle purple pink, and then we have the scarlet red, that one. Oh my gosh, no, thank you. I needed this today too, Laquita. I promise you that. We have beige red 132. We have dull beige red 382. And then we have that vintage turquoise and the dark cobalt green 313, and then the water blue. You got it. You got it. Do I want to add like light pale mint? Where's my pale mint? I know I have my pale mint. Where's that pale mint? That's a pretty color. That would do. Or aqua. Look at the aqua. Ooh, the aqua in that dark cobalt green. Looks so pretty together. I think this is it. We're going to move that. So dark cobalt and aqua color. Look how beautiful. That is gorgeous. Okay. And then we have the water blue. And then the dark pigeon. I think this is the dark pigeon. That's pretty also. All right. So we have that swatches. And that's why it's really important to do your swatches first. If you don't have it in, you know, in one sketchbook. I normally do have that in one sketchbook, but you know what? I still do it anyways. Okay. Now, if you want to clean up your lines, go ahead and do that. If you have more line work, you know, sketch the lines in there that you want to clean up, especially the ones inside your lines. I mean, inside your character. This is the perfect time. Oh, and I wanted to share something with you guys today while I have you. I was at Michael's the other day, and you've probably seen that on social media, but that's not really what I wanted to talk to you guys about. I actually picked up something. I bought this because look how much we need it right now. This is the Artist Desktop Vacuum. I haven't opened it yet, but this would be handy right now. So that's the one. I got it from Michael's. And I'm like, ooh, I need that. I didn't know they were going to release that, but so perfect for all these eraser suds. You need that. There. Especially now there's like lots of back to school sales, you know. I think it's the perfect time to do your shopping. La da da. I would normally name all my characters. What should I name these? There's a lot. Lisa, Laquita, Sarah, Patricia, Lay. How many characters do we have here? I think that's perfect. Perfect name. Beautiful names. Okay. So this is the one we did first, right? So I'll start with this one, and I'm going to use my dull beige for the face. Ooh, you are really corally. Okay, so this is what I love about the alcohol markers, guys, because alcohol markers, the way that the ink is absorbed by the paper is just so beautiful that you're often not gonna end up with like those mini tiny strokes. If I use like a water-based dye ink marker perhaps, or another type of the India inks, even the India inks, it would leave that mark where you do your little scribbles, you do the little strokes. But with alcohol markers, it's just so beautiful that it's not going to give you those tiny marks, especially if you're using a marker pad like this one, because it's really meant for inks like this. But the downside of alcohol markers is that they bleed through. So, you know, there's pros and cons to it. But just kind of like plan it in your head. If you're going to make an illustration like this, then you know for sure that you do not want to use the back part. Or you can use like a gesso, you know, like a white gesso if you would like. I'm going to use a beige red for this. Okay. All right. I don't like that. See, the good part is that I can add the orange in here. That's what I should have used with the face. So the beige red. Okay, now another thing. When I try to add another layer of ink on top of the alcohol markers, the key to it is that you need to give it a little bit of time to dry, because the more you soak it, what's going to happen is that the inks are going to travel in the paper, right? So if you're like using your coloring book, try to have like the tiniest, smallest gap between your line when you're coloring, because what happens is that the ink travels a little bit. And so, you know, when you're used to coloring just very close to the edge, and you're like, hey, I swear I was inside my lines earlier. How come it looks like that? It's because of the alcohol inks. It's the alcohol marker. So they travel a little bit, and sometimes it reaches the edge and it looks like you're coloring outside the line. And there's nothing wrong with coloring outside the line anyways, but if you don't like it, then that's the thing, all right? Okay, so I'm gonna make the fins on top the same cadmium orange. All right. We're just going to color. I'm going to start coloring because I'm taking forever. But we haven't done this in a while. So, you know, and we don't have time limit now. We can just kind of like hang out and have fun and do this. No one's going to tell us, stop. Time's out. Nope. We gotta finish this artwork. And you know what we can add? We can add some watercolors later on if you want, even though it's not really a watercolor paper. You know, can add gelatos, like a little bit of that glazed gelatos in here. It's gonna look pretty. Okay, so I'm gonna do was it the beige red, the light one? Okay, so I'm gonna do the beige red and I'm gonna let it dry. I'm gonna color it one layer. Okay, and I'm gonna add some fins texture later on, but I'm gonna let this one dry first. And we're gonna move on to the next buddy, or no, princesses. They're ladies. Okay. But I feel like the octopus is like a little buddy. Hey, buddy, you're so cute. Hey, what happened to our focus? It's out of focus. Here you go. Yeah, right? Okay, so I feel like I need to erase a little bit more there. I'm sorry, be patient with me. I'm just gonna clean up a little bit of my sketching. There. My little buddy. I feel like this is like a little buddy here. I don't know about that, but I feel like it. Okay, I'm going to make this one red, I think. Yeah, but I'm going to color in with the same color, the beige red first. This one is the beige red 132. I'm going to draw just one layer. And then if you have like a bigger area like this, what you want to do is just kind of like work slow and go cover one area at a time. And what you want is also kind of like flip your marker, so because it gets dry, so it dries it up. So just kind of like I'm twisting as I'm coloring to get, you know, a fresh new juicy part. So kind of like twist it again and then color again. Does that make sense? So especially with big areas like this. And then I'll switch again, twist again, and all that. Go in there. And then the Goldfaber Sketch Marker, they come in with a colorless blender. I've never been a big fan of the colorless blender because I went on the top. To avoid going to the eyes, you know, just to make sure that they're completely dry. So I just avoid it because look, I went over my mouth and there's a little bit of that bleed through with my line work. So just kind of like be mindful. Okay. Yeah, what was I going to say? I was never a big fan of the colorless blender. The way I love to blend alcohol markers is just kind of like adding, you know, a deeper color in there. For example, I'm going to add in the scarlet red, you know, and then while this part right here is still wet because I added my beige red, so I'm just going to go in, soak it in with ink, right? I'm going to go make it where this left part of my little buddy right here is still wet. I'm going to go in with the scarlet and I'm going to slowly add in some ink. So you just got to work slightly faster, and I'm going to grab some of that and I'm going to go on top of it so I can blend the two colors. Pick up a little bit more so I can get a really nice blend in there. Don't worry about that color in the nib. It goes away. Kind of like that. Like that. And then I'll add some more here to create that beautiful gradient. I feel like you have to work slightly faster. You know, it's not like a watercolor where, especially if you're using like a really nice paper, then you don't have to worry about that water drying right away. I feel like with the alcohol markers, you just have to work slightly faster while your first layer is still wet so that the two colors will blend in beautifully. And then now I'm just going over my little buddy here. I'm going to try and avoid my eyes. Just go in there. And this will cover up any mini kind of like tiny strokes that I created earlier, because we're soaking it in with the ink, and we'll let it absorb by the paper. All right, and then we're going to add a little bit more contrast here and there. And then the Faber-Castell, the Goldfaber sketch, the one I love about this is because it comes in with dual tips, right? So you get like the brush, and then you get a 0.6 millimeter on the other end. So what you can do is just kind of like get this and add it like that. So you get into this little tiny details. And I'm just going to add in some half circles, curvy lines to add some texture to it. Just kind of like that. So cute. Why are you so cute? Just like that. Oh, you're so cute. And I'm almost following the shape, right? So that's what you want. So the curved line is here. I'm going to follow the movement of my tentacle. So just kind of adding like that. And this one here. 1, 2, 3. And then go on the other side. 1, 2, 3. That's so tiny. Exactly. I was just gonna say that, Laquita. They're like little tiny painted toenails. Why did you give me that visual? Oh, they're so cute though. Now if you feel like I'm missing a little bit more contrast, then you can do the same thing again. Just kind of like go in and, you know, kind of like let it kissy the two tips, just like that, and go in and just add some contrast, especially where the folds of the tentacles are. So I'm just adding contrast in there. Over here and over there. Like that. And you kind of go over that if you want to, because there's nothing wrong with that. They'll just blend even more. That's the beauty of alcohol markers. You don't have to be so careful. You know, as much as I love my Pitt pens, and they're my favorite markers, favorite, hands down. Sometimes you have to really get used to the stroke part, you know, where that, because how it works is kind of like watercolors. It overlays on top, so it deepens the color. You know, alcohol markers, even if you go over and over with the same shade, yes, it's going to deepen it just a little bit, but not as much as like the India inks would, like the Pitt pens would, you know, because it's just very different. They're just different inks used in there, but they can be used in different ways also. So both are really lovely, just lovely to use. Okay, I think I'm going to pull out my light magenta. I know, a little bit, just a little bit. I want to add a little bit of purple, and it's still going to look good with that blue and that yellow, oranges that we have here. So I want to color this in with that light magenta very lightly. Just going over. Actually, when I'm working with alcohol markers, the way I like to work is have a light, medium, and dark, you know, with markers like this. Have light value, a medium, and then a dark one. But you can get away with just light and medium or light and dark by doing the technique that we did earlier, just kind of like getting more inks in there. So I'm just going to let this one dry. And then I'm going to use the aqua color for my squid in here. So we're just going to draw. Oh my gosh, I'm happy you guys are here. Thank you so much for joining. Here we go. Just adding more. Oops. I colored outside the line. It's okay. Sometimes we are our worst critics. Why do we do that to ourselves, you know? Because I will never talk to a friend like how sometimes I would talk to myself. It's ridiculous. It's really, honestly, it's crazy. And no one talks to me more than myself. So I just have to be really nicer to myself. It's ridiculous how we all do that. Okay. Oh, welcome. Okay, so next I'm going to do, I'm just going to make it circle like nothing happened. There we go. We have a bubble. Okay, so I'm going to work with the aqua and the middle purple pink in here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do that touchy thing. Kissy face. And I'm just going to go in here. And like that. Right, so we get a little bit of that middle purple pink in the beginning, like that. Sir Lynn. Hi, Sir Lynn. Kamusta? Okay, so we add that, so light magenta again. Did I say magenta? I don't know why I keep calling the middle purple pink magenta today. And even if you get a little bit of that middle purple pink, it kind of like, it's pretty. You get a little bit of that gradient. It's nice. Here we go. So pretty. Add more. Look at this. and it gives it slight of that translucent looking, iridescent, more iridescent really, but it's so pretty. And I'm doing the same thing. It's kind of like grabbing some of that because I don't really want to have that strong contrast from the middle purple, but want to have a little bit of touch of that. And then next is I'm going to do a flicker. So flicking stroke like this to add a little bit of texture there at the bottom. Just like that. I'm going to go in there. Going over it, making it wet with the ink. And I'm going to go move and twist my marker, my middle purple pink as well, to make sure that I'm really getting kind of like that juicy part right there where all the ink is. I'm just flicking it. Do the same thing, go to the other side. Gonna add that. All right, and just go flick it. Okay. And then this time I'm just kind of like really soaking this in right now, just to cover up some of that strokey finish I did earlier on top. But trust me, give it some time to dry. Remember, alcohol markers are like that. You just need a little bit of drying time. And I'm going to go in straight in with the middle purple pink just so I can get a, you know, more intense color. Over here, grab a little bit more. Like that. Add a little bit here. I keep forgetting I have that 0.6 tip also. I could have just used it. It's okay. Then I'll use the middle purple just to add in there. Okay, now I am going to use the middle purple pink to add more texture here to my little starfish. And all I'm doing, actually, I'm switching tips, ends in here. I'm going to use a 0.6 and I'm just going to add like almost like just little tiny stripes on the edge of my starfish, just to add some character to it. And this is where the 0.6 would come in really handy, because if I'm using the brush nib here, it would take me forever because I will be slow and more careful. But I feel like with this one, you can just, you're still going to be careful, but it's so much better. So much better. And then I'm going to add some blush, because that's what I was missing, as a kind of blush. Okay, I'll add some pink too. Over here. Like that. Okay. Now I'm going to go in with my dark pigeon blue, and I'm just going to add some texture. You know, what you can also do is just use colored pencil if you would like. I think that's a really good way to bring in some texture to your characters. But, you know, let's just stick with the alcohol markers. And I'm going to go in and add like little mini ovals across the tentacles, just so we can add some textures in here and add some visual interest. And this is where it would take forever. I feel like this is part of, you know, rendering usually means adding some contrast and just highlights to your painting or to your illustration. And usually that's the one that takes forever, because I feel like once you start, you feel like you can just keep adding and just keep going. So sometimes it's very difficult to stop. You're like, you know what, I can add it here. You know what, I can just add. there. So just kind of like, okay, take your time, move away from one, and then, you know, move on to the next. But trust me, I understand, because I do the same. And I just want to make it where they're going to look the same, not really, but, you know, very close. I grabbed the wrong one. I need the dull beige. So just adding a little bit of that oval as well to my little mini buddy octopus in here, just to have that very similar look. So I'm just doing it in threes and adding it in places like that. All right, now next is we're going to add some fin, or scales I should say, to our fish. And so we're going to have like curved lines or half circles, just like that, right? And then I'm going to go on in between that, then add more, just to make sure that they're all well balanced. Like this and like that. You can play around with the size. I mean, you can make it where it's just half of your fish that will have a scale. I mean, come on. You do not have a say, because you are my creation, my little mini fish. You can make it where this one is like parts of it is stripes. That's going to look really funky, but very unique. And that's what art is like pushing your limit, because it's your creation. The poor fish, like, please just complete my scales. Okay, all right, we're gonna make it all scales. Keep adding half circles to you. Ta-da! And then we can add some orange, because why not? So we can add lines, noise. I think this is just the very playful part, you know, where you can just kind of like do whatever when you're coloring. The key would be to have a limited color palette, because I would like to go crazy and have like reds and throw in, you know, different colors in here. But what's going to help from it to not look like super crazy would be just to have a balanced color palette here, like what we have right now. It looks so good. Okay, we have the other fish. What am I going to color the fish? I feel like I need to bring in the scarlet red in here, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to bring in the scarlet. I'm just going to color it red, because we want to have that balance in here. So I'm just using the scarlet red, coloring this part also. We can use the orange and the scarlet with this fish. It's going to look pretty. We're going to color the fin on top. I definitely am coloring outside the line, guys. Geez Louise. I will not pass kindergarten. The teacher will say, stay inside the lines. Sorry, I'm trying. I'm trying, teacher. I'm sorry. And then I'm going to use the dull beige on the face. The fishy face. Yeah. I'm pretty sure that this is dry, but, you know, just to make sure that I don't smudge it and we don't end up with lots of bleed throughs. Oh, I'm coloring outside the lines. Goodness. Okay. All right, then what we can do, actually what we can do is just add dots inside this one. I'm just going to use the same dull beige, just like this. That's cute. Like imperfect dots. Look at that. That's actually super duper cute. I like that. I like it. It really does. It really does make it where it's almost like sometimes, and even now that I'm trying to learn how to illustrate more like the whimsical, very children's book style of illustration, it's crazy how it has to look imperfect. Honestly, it's like it's crazy how that works, because you try so hard most of your life to just kind of like make it almost look like it's not perfect, especially the kawaii, because your lines has to be clean, it has to be simple. But now that I'm doing that children's book illustration, it's crazy how you're breaking all the rules of the textures, of the symmetry. It's nothing is perfect, and it's almost look like you have to make it look imperfect for it to look perfect. It's the craziest thing, but it's so liberating. It's so freeing. It's like me being in my 40s. Drawing children's book illustration is so liberating. It's like, oh my gosh, I can just do it this way, and it's imperfect, but it looks so cute. It's crazy how that works. It's almost like erasing everything that I have, learned and tried and practiced when I was trying to draw, the kawaii style. Crazy how that works. But I guess it's kind of like, doing jazz music. I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. But, in jazz, we always say this, is that you gotta know the basic. You always gotta learn the basic first before you can even do the jazz notes. So I guess in art, it's the same way. You start with the basic, and then, becoming a rebel. Now that you understand all that basic, now you can just do whatever. It feels so fun. All right, I'm using the same color. That's the dull beige red. And then we didn't even use the dark cobalt. I don't know where I'm going to use that. Maybe I'll use it here, a little bit of that dark cobalt. Yeah, but if that's something that you are interested in, that children's book illustration, let me know, because we can definitely dive in a little deeper, slowly at a time, and just kind of like start creating our own characters, because I think it starts with, the character building first, and which is really, really important when it comes to that. So because I didn't use a dark cobalt green, I feel like I need to use it. So I'm just going to add, I'm just going to pick up a little bit of that instead of adding it directly. We can definitely try and do more exercises when it comes to that children's book illustration. But it's almost difficult to teach, because in a way you have to make it your own, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out how I can just kind of like maybe just share guidance, while we're building the characters, the step by step, what to think about, and all that. But what I'm going to say, because we always start with the basic, always basics first. And it's crazy how you can build a character from different shapes. It can be a square, it can be a triangle, it can be an oval, but it's like you start from there and then you build up your character, and it's just so much fun. So much fun. So I have so much more to learn when it comes to that, but I would love to grow with you and explore that with you, because it really is so much fun. And it's like when it comes to the materials that we're using also, that's another thing. It's like you can do anything, you can mix anything, and it's just fun. So fun. All right, so all I'm doing here is I'm almost like creating this iridescent type look. So I'm gonna switch from the light magenta color, which is, to me, it's a lilac color, and the dark pigeon blue, just to go over, create this almost like a border around it, just like that. And the dark pigeon, but I have to give it to Faber-Castell. The names are so cute, especially of the gelatos. Their product names are so fun. They have this metallic set that has such unique names. It's just so much fun. I have fun with the names. I was questioning myself when I first started this style right here, but actually looks really nice. All right, then you can use the water blue, and then we can start adding in our bubbles and our fillers in here. You can use the light magenta and just add that. And then just to have the little mini circles in here, I'm just going to add in, just kind of like, to add in those textures like that. But we can start adding in our bubbles. We'll be good to go. Where's the water blue? Water blue would be here. This is the nice part about the alcohol markers, because you don't have to be so careful with the ink, because they dry fast. Because the way I work is I'm so impatient when it comes to like drying, and that's why I cannot, as much as I love working with oil pastels, it's like you have to be so careful. I can't put my hands in here, you know, and I'm like trying to do that. It's difficult because it's gonna smear, it's gonna bleed, it's gonna blend and smudge. It's like, ugh. It can be frustrating, but alcohol markers are like dry. Girlfriend, I'm good. I'm good here. Then I'm gonna use the aqua because I have a little bit of aqua in there. My boo-boo. And so I'm just gonna go in and just kind of like add a little bit of like mini tiny aqua blue color. But can you imagine, we sketched this from the beginning, right? From the beginning till the end. And that's what something you can do. You can create your own coloring book, you know, and then you can share with, you know, your kids, grandkids, or, you know, loved ones, and just have fun. We started from the basic shapes. I mean, come on. And sometimes it gets overwhelming to think about the idea, but as long as you understand that all I need lay basic shapes. What can I create that? And then try to minimize everything, kind of like not make it so complicated. Don't overwhelm yourself. That's the best you can do, is just try not to overwhelm yourself, because it's easy to do that. Kind of like, oh, look at me. What am I doing? 2 different nibs. I do this a lot. This is the, am I the only one who does this? Because it drives me nuts. I'm like different nibs and different colors. The end caps. It's like, oops, wrong one. I'm like, even when I'm not doing classes, when I'm just by myself, it happens. Trust me. It's like, oh, oops, I did that. I did it again. It's either I'm losing caps, or I'm using, or I'm putting different caps in different markers. Little mini. You know what you can do also is that if you have gelatos, you can kind of like use your gelatos on top and add like some shimmery thingies in here. But oh my gosh, it looks so good, guys. It looks so good. Look at what we finished today. Oh my gosh, it only took us an hour and a half. Because of all my talking and talking and talking, I apologize, but I had so much fun, and I hope you did too. Thank you for hanging out with me. You know, we are going to be doing this every Wednesday at 5 o'clock Central Time, 6 o'clock Eastern. So every Wednesday we will be here, we'll be creating, and we'll be creating different types of projects, from kawaii illustrations like this to, you know, a more abstract with more mixed media stuff. And yeah, we'll be learning so much. We'll be creating a lot. Please do use the comment if you want to see, you know, what you want to see for future classes. You know, if you have any request or any type of mediums that you want to dive into and learn, you know, let's all learn together. So this is a safe place. This is our safe space where we can just create and have lots of fun and be okay with making mistakes and being imperfect, because this is what life is. And you know, it's never about perfection. It's just all about showing up, and we all did show it up today. So thank you all so much. I appreciate you. I had a wonderful time hanging out. Until next Wednesday, oh my gosh, until next Wednesday, we'll be creating more. We're going to have some fun with acrylic paints next week. We're going to be doing some lettering. So I'll be posting that on my website. I'll be posting the information. And maybe if there's a template, I'll post a template in there as well. So I will see you next week, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. Bye.